Hey everyone, welcome to another show. As you know, I haven't been doing many shows, but I'm back. How can you not talk about the global casino mental asylum when it's reaching screeching point, right? It's just getting ridiculous. I know when we never. My guest this evening is people you'll all know him, but paulcraigroberts.org, paulcraigroberts.org. Go and see his stuff. As I've said many times, he's appointed by President Ronald Reagan as Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Economic Policy. So this gentleman knows about world events and what it's all about, and he knows the belly of the beast, if you like. Just before we start, Paul knows I always have just a little rant to get it off my chest. I want to tell everyone as you all know, a lot of the people I was with were all saying Trump's going to save us, Trump's was going to save us, Trump's the savior, Trump's this and that and everything. I never, ever, ever really went along with that, although I was very hopeful that it was going to be a great change. Myself and Paul Craig Roberts, we've talked many times on different shows about Hillary Clinton, Obama, Biden, and all the rest of it. So I was living in hope that there was going to be a change. He was going to drain the swamp and all the rest of it. But in the back of my mind, I thought, like Matt Letizia in England, the footballer said, different cheeks on the same ass, right? So that's what he said. It's the same cabal. And I want to remind people what I said one thing to you. You remember many years ago, Paul. I said, Paul, they're like the mafia. You stopped me in my tracks. You said, no, they're not like the mafia. They're worse than the mafia. The mafia is quite fair, actually, you know. You know where they are with the mafia. These people are the most unscrupulous characters in the world, you know. Compared to Putin, Putin's like an angel in my comparison. Trump, it's like one of Trump's reality shows. This is the fate of humanity we're talking about here. This is must be taken seriously. It's like here in the House of in Parliament here, they're talking and laughing about things like it's some kind of strange monopoly game. It's shamelessly immoral, you know. It's terrible, you know. Like I heard you say on a program just now, the president of Colombia better watch his ass. Trump said, like you mentioned earlier on, you know. Here's a couple more. If Iran attacks its people, protesters, we are locked and loaded, right? Yeah. Rubio, right? Marco Rubio. We have a quarantine on the oil until we decide what's good for Venezuelan people, yeah? But more importantly, what's good for the American people, right? Yeah? Was that your cat? You still got your cats, Paul?
Yes, she was demanding my attention.
Here's
Uh,
another good one, Paul. Cuba is run by incompetent, senile men. Apparently, I think Trump bombed Nigeria on Christmas Day. Dulce Rodriguez was in Moscow. China has delegates meeting Maduro hours before this happened. He said, Dulce Rodriguez, she can run Venezuela if she as long as she does what we say. So what we're seeing is an obvious. I'm glad this is all happening, really, because it's absolutely proven to people, Paul, that these people are completely clinically insane and should be locked up and quarantine themselves before they do any more terrible, terrible damage, right? So I don't know where to start with it, Paul, but I would just like, I've had my little rant now, that's it. Everyone will say, shut up and let Paul carry on. But I like to get it off my chest. And now just, you know all this stuff, Paul. What is going on? Where do you start with it all? You know all this stuff much better than me. That's why you're here, you know?
well, I think that Trump may be harming his base. Um, the Venezuelan event, I think, has created a second split in the Trump ranks. The first split is over Israel's control of American policy, and not just its foreign policy, but its domestic policy as well. Um, and many suspect that Israel was behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They have circumstantial evidence and they make their case. There doesn't seem to be any evidence against the person they arrested for Kirk's assassination. So I'm not sure how they can bring him to trial when they don't seem to have any evidence. So we now have this split and the Trump base with this behavior toward Venezuela. And the thing about it, he originally tried to justify this as the Venezuelans were killing our youth by selling them narcotics. And we had to stop them from attacking us with narcotics. So he created the impression in the American people that we were under attack by Venezuela, but they were using narcotics instead of guns or bombs or missiles. But then he again let the real truth out. He says, we're going to take trillions of dollars of Venezuela's oil. So he admits it's a looting operation. And a looting operation is a traditional American approach to Latin America. It's always been our approach, and none other than U.S. Marine Commander Smedley Butler made that statement several times and published it. He said that he and the United States Marines were the enforcement mechanism for the New York banks, the American oil companies, and the United Fruit Company to loot South America. So he said this, it was the 20s or 30s, 1920s, 1930s, a century ago. And therefore, there's nothing new about it. Except now it's the President of the United States proclaiming it and saying he's justified in taking over Venezuela because then we get to steal their um, national resources. So this sort of creates the image of somebody that you wouldn't invite to dinner. He's likely to steal the silverware.
I wouldn't let him babysit my kids either. Hey,
And
we might go into that later on with I don't know. I don't know. I'm just saying. I
and
wondered if it's a
I
cover
know,
to cover the
and
Epstein thing. I don't know.
so, and then we see that he threatened Colombia, Cuba, and Mexico, and has today announced that the United States is going to begin attacking the drug cartels within Mexico. So he's asserted the right of the United States government to target inside Mexico and attack people. Well, of course, he's justifying it on the grounds that they're narco terrorists. But once you establish the rights by using it, that you can attack inside other countries, then you can attack other people. And it'll soon not be limited to alleged drug cartels. So it seems to me this has to send a message to the Kremlin and to the Chinese, who are always talking about peace agreements, peace deals. How are they going to make a peace deal with someone who has no respect for any other country's sovereignty? So what will become of that? Will that force the Russians to eventually realize that they're at war and they have to take this conflict far more seriously than they have ever taken it, and bring it to a quick halt before they find uh, European Union troops in Kiev or in Ukraine? Um, we could see also that the Chinese finally realize that the Americans are voiding Richard Nixon's policy of one China. In the 1970s, President Nixon removed Taiwan from the United Nations Security Council and put Red China there and declared there's only one China and Taiwan is part of China. And that's been the United States policy since the Nixon years in the 70s. Well, when we are sending hundreds of American missiles to protect Taiwan from China when it's part of China, clearly we are abandoning the one China policy that has ruled for a half century. It's been a half century we've had a one China policy. Um, China at some point has to wake up and see that the United States is claiming Taiwan, just like it now claims Greenland.
Oh, God. Don't stop me on that one yet.
And and it's saying that Taiwan is ours and we have to defend it with our missiles and our navy. Well, how long can the Chinese continue to ignore reality when it becomes so blatant? What will result from that? Um, what will result everywhere in Latin America from the realization that they have, for their entire history, been colonized by the United States. Now, Trump's policy of colonization has a new twist to it. It's regime change in a new way. Instead of having a color revolution, overthrowing the government, pointing a puppet, we tell the existing government that that's what we're going to do to them unless they act as our agent. This is how he's treating the current president in Venezuela. He says, look, we'll leave you alone as long as you do what we say. I intend to run your country, and you will be my agent in doing so. And that way, we won't invade you, we won't have a color revolution, and so on. Well, who knows? Venezuela may accept. Trump's demand is that the American oil companies come back in and take over all of the oil. Well, that will mean the oil revenues no longer go to Venezuela. They'll go to the U.S. government's budget, and Trump will use it for whatever he's up to. This is a cheaper and less bloody way of colonizing countries. You just use threats and bribes. He'll no doubt tell the president in Venezuela that just do what we say, we'll make you rich, you personally rich, not your country. And and you'll be our agent, and nothing will happen to you. So these are the stunning kinds of developments. I don't know how much more dangerous the American and British provocations of Russia will get. We attacked their strategic bombing fleet, and Putin pretended it didn't happen. And we attacked Putin's home, and he pretended it didn't happen. But apparently, the Russian military is tired of pretending that things don't happen. And the Russian public is tired of Putin pretending that things don't happen. And so yesterday, apparently, the Russians fired its fearsome missile and destroyed the energy reserves in the large Ukrainian city in western Ukraine, and simultaneously attacked Kiev with multiple drone and rocket forces. And it looks like the country is essentially without any power supply. When the temperature is said to be between 7 degrees below zero and 20 degrees below zero, uh, the energy supply is gone, the electricity is off. And so this is the first sign of any real Russian seriousness about this conflict that's now 4 years old and about to enter a fifth year. If this type of attack continues, the war will quickly be over. Um, and it will mean that Ukraine essentially is conquered and the Russians will be in charge. And so, what will this do? And also, we see the claim that the Trump administration has made that Greenland belongs to the United States. This is now the declared official position of the United States government. Greenland is ours. Okay, Greenland is part of Denmark. Denmark's a member of NATO. Under the NATO treaty, the United States is committed to defending the integrity of Denmark, and yet it's going to steal the largest part of it. Well, this essentially means the United States is now attacking a member of NATO. So, are all the NATO countries going to pretend that it's not happening? Or is this the end of NATO? Or will this make the Europeans realize that the United States is not only going to loot the Latin American countries, it's going to loot Europe? And will they then seek a treaty with Russia in order to be defended? So it's entirely possible,
Say
not
that
only.
again. Say that again, Paul, for people to hear what you just said.
Okay, a consequence of Trump attacking Denmark and stealing the larger part of the country. Though now he says he's going to purchase it from them. But of course, it'll be a purchase under a threat. So they may pretend, oh well, Denmark sold it to him. It's not really an attack. They may, but if the Europeans are realistic, they'll see that Denmark was forced to turn loose of Greenland. And the cover is the Americans bought it. Well, what will they buy next? The London Bridge, Paris. So if the Europeans come to the conclusion that essentially Trump intends to loot them as well as South America, you can kiss NATO goodbye and you can expect there'd be a change in the relationship between Europe and Russia. They certainly wouldn't want to have a hostile America on one side and a hostile Russia on the other. So I would expect the Europeans will try to come to some security arrangement with Russia so that they have protection against the United States.
Wow.
If and of course this would be a good thing
Go
because
on.
Europe has no prospect of surviving a conflict with Russia. Um, and it, and Europe has nothing to gain from this sort of fight that we've arranged with Russia. If you just look how much they're already hurting, the German chancellor has said that the sanctions against Russia have closed down the German economy. It's destroying the automobile industry. Well, the German automobile industry is the backbone of Europe. And so maybe the Europeans will finally realize that the real threat is in Washington. If they come to that conclusion, then, in other words, I'm just laying out all the possibilities that this could be a year of major changes that nobody would have ever thought of or suspected from the Trump regime. But the way he's behaving, he could produce that kind of result. Um, I think in the future, it's going to be dangerous to provoke Russia. It hasn't been in the past. But after they unleashed this Oreshnik missile on the second largest city in Ukraine, um, that's an indication of a change in Putin's approach. And I assume it was done at the insistence of the military. They're tired of this never-ending conflict, this piddle way of fighting a war. And if they would repeat that type of attack a second or third time, that'd be the end of Ukraine. They wouldn't be able to uh, fight. They would have no ability to engage in military action. There's no power. There's no electricity. Nothing moves. So I think Trump is creating a big mess. And his approach to all messes, including the ones we have at home, for example, the housing sector is suffering right now, and the interest rates prevent the average American from being able to afford a mortgage to purchase a house. So Trump has now ordered the two federal mortgage agencies to purchase all the home mortgages. So they're going to spend $200 billion purchasing home mortgages, hoping that will drive down the interest rate on mortgages. If the price of the bonds go down or go up, when you buy the bonds, you push the price up, the interest rate goes down. So that's his approach. It's not to fix something, it's to sort of cover it up with a new form of subsidy. But the problem will still be there. People can't afford houses. Oh, okay, we fix that by forcing down the interest rate. Well, that's not the only reason they can't afford houses. So, Jason, I've talked long enough. I'm just trying to show that Trump may be producing a lot of situations that he has no awareness of. The unintended consequences of Trump's behavior can be large and outside of the ability of the United States to control.
Well said, Paul. Fantastic. Yeah. It's always great to speak to you. It really is, and you cover very many things. And gee, we only touched the surface, obviously. But yeah, that's the thing with as I talk a lot about, and I know it's very basic common sense, but I do like to bring common sense and basic stuff into it. Our current situation globally, there are random events, obviously, Paul, coincidences and things, but generally, what we see is an outcome, a consequence, a sort of feedback loop, an outcome from previous decisions made by global leaders or in our personal lives by ourselves, right? You eat loads of donuts, you're going to die, or you do stupid things. And our global casino mental asylum world is an outcome from previous decisions made with or without vision and wisdom. Clearly, without mostly wisdom and vision, but based on short term greed, power, profit, debt, control, and slavery. The blooming opposite of what it should. Sorry, I'm getting excited again. It's the Greek coming on in me. Like Gerald Salente, I'm being like Gerald Salente. Or, hi, Gerald. What a great guy. But that's what we're seeing. So when people are playing a game like they do, then obviously they want these outcomes, but obviously they don't look far ahead down the timeline of what's going to happen from their decisions. And I want to make a point here, Paul. I've always liked what you've said about Putin because you've always said that Putin, many times you've said on my shows that Putin has been too soft, has been too soft and doesn't react hard enough. Now, I suppose he knows that if he does, then there's going to be an all-out explosion. But when you were speaking, it reminds me, I often see a buzzard, like an eagle in your country, but a buzzard in this country, huge bird, very powerful in the sky, and you get all these little crows attacking it, and it just flips like that. And yeah, I see you. I could take you out. I see you. And I wondered if Putin's a bit like that. It's like, you carry on, you little girls and boys. And it reminds me of another story. I'm going off subject here, but there was the Taekwondo champion of Wales when I was living in Wales years ago. I was only 18, and he kept picking on me all the time, like America does with Russia, right? Whenever he saw me, he'd bully me. It was horrible. And he had all his henchmen with him. And I was a bit scared, but I was quite strong in those days. And one day, it went on for probably over a year, and one day he actually attacked me, and I just simply choked him off on the ground. And that was the end of that. So I'm not saying that to sound tough, but what I'm saying is that at some point, if they push enough, then they're going to get a massive response. And I've said to you on my show many times, I think, they always say, well, Putin's on NATO's doorstep, Look at the maps. I've showed them on the show. NATO surrounded Putin, right? And I've said this like me coming to Paul Craig Roberts' house with my tent, sticking on your lawn, and say Paul Craig Roberts is on my doorstep. These people are madmen, right? Madmen. And and BlackRock apparently is. I don't know if it's BlackRock or some. I think it's BlackRock is buying all the properties, and then the people got to go in trailer parks. They're buying the trailer parks. Apparently, they're buying the funeral homes. So they get you all the way to death till you're in your box. Yeah. It's disgraceful, Paul. It's sick. It's horrible. It's vile. It's terrible. It's slavery. People are suffering. They can't buy houses. They're renting. They can't buy food. And these nutcases are sending all the money to Gaza, doing this, doing that. It's completely unbelievable, isn't it? It's totally insane. But I think maybe it's had to get to this point. I don't know. I know biblical people, who are very big on the Bible, and they say to me, Jason, there's nothing you can do about it. Don't bother doing any shows. Don't bother doing any conferences. It's all going to play out in the way that the Bible said. It's going to be complete mayhem, chaos, blah, blah, blah. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it just seems to me, Paul, whatever people do and whatever they do, or however we expose these people, they just carry on being insane. It's like a crazy game show. And I'm very sad about it. I know I'm joking about it. I'm very sad about it because there's people suffering all around the world from these maniacs. I had Leo Zagami on the show yesterday, and he was talking about the super nations. There's going to be about three. Everything else, gone, finished. And that when you said about Europe going with Putin, I mean, I know who I'd go with. I'd go with Putin because he's the most sensible voice out of all of them. And people still say to me, "Oh, Putin, we should kill Putin." But someone was saying that they took the oil in Venezuela in preparation to bomb Iran, right? How do you feel about that, Paul? Do you think they're going to go into Iran now? What do you think they're going to do with Iran? Oh, and also, Paul, is it just one big pantomime game to collapse the system? People ask me this. Is it one big pantomime game to collapse the system, to bring in the digital ID and digital slavery and all the rest of it?
Yeah, I don't think so.
No, no.
Not Iran. Look, what has Israel achieved in the 21st century? It's now a quarter of it past. They've achieved the largest part of Greater Israel. They used the United States and the British to destroy Libya, Iraq, Syria. These were the opponents to the expansion and domination of the Middle East by Israel. There are essentially no Arab states left except Saudi Arabia and those tiny little oil emirates that are, they're kind of like cities more than states. And I just read earlier this week that the Israeli government has announced that the military is on a full war footing for a simultaneous war against the Houthis, Lebanon, and Iran.
Because the Houthis are in Venezuela, I heard also.
No, no, the
No.
Houthis are in Yemen.
And someone also said that Iran's factory for building drones is in Venezuela, or isn't that true?
Of course, it's not true.
No, no. Okay.
Yeah, it's just part of the propaganda.
Yeah.
You tell, it's just like the Nazis said at Nuremberg. Said, look, any country can take the people to war. You just tell them a bunch of lies, and they fall for it and believe it. So that's just part of making the Americans think taking over Venezuela is a good thing, it's necessary. Oh, because the Houthis are in Venezuela producing drones to attack Florida. Well, I mean, it's so silly. So I think I forgot what I was saying, but
Just about Iran, I was saying, what do you think's going to happen with Iran, Paul, really? Do you think they're
well,
going to go all out and just go plundering into Iran? Do you think they'll do a Venezuela or an Iran? They'll never get away with that, will they? Go in and say, look, we're going to kill you anyway if you don't do what we say. They won't
well,
get away with it.
they may. You don't ever say they won't get away with it. They get away with whatever they want to get away with. They
Mm.
always have.
Yeah. I mean, John Perkins used to be on my show, and
Jason, we've
go on.
overthrown Iran before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So did the British.
Mm.
Um, we tried to overthrow them a few years ago in the Green Revolution. We sponsor all these NGOs. We pump them full of dollars. They run around and buy agents. They buy protesters to go in the streets, just like they did in Kiev in the Maidan Revolution. Um, the money, all it takes is money. Unless a country has a very strong ethnic nationalism, it's not really a country. And it's easy to overthrow because there's no real commitment. And all it takes is money and bribes, and they're overthrown. Look, Netanyahu was in December in the United States for the fifth time of the year. I saw no report on what the meeting was about. I didn't see anything, but I'm confident that Netanyahu was giving Trump orders to attack Iran. After the so-called 12-day war between Israel and Iran, Israel learned that the Iranian missiles could destroy Israel. And so they don't want to try it again. They want us to do it for them, as we did in Iraq and Libya and Syria. And so I suspect Trump will have a hard time avoiding it because he's essentially in the pockets of the Israel lobby. Everything he does is for Israel. And you know, the genocide in Palestine, this was funded with American money and carried out with American weapons and protected diplomatically by the American veto in the UN. So, uh, my view is that whatever Netanyahu wants, he'll get. So you can expect a lot of trouble from the Israel lobby because there's no one in the United States that stands up to them. In fact, they've just about made it illegal to oppose them. And I suspect it will be illegal. In some sense, it already is. For example, in states like Texas and Florida, if you criticize an Israeli policy or you engage in a boycott of Israel, you're not allowed to work for the government and you're not allowed to have a contract with the government to supply goods or services or any sort of thing. You're just excluded on the grounds that you criticized Israel. Well, that in effect, is a de facto prohibition. And so what we see is the Israelis have been able to overturn in the United States the First Amendment that guarantees freedom of speech. If you exercise freedom of speech in Florida and Texas, and those are not the only states, I use them because they're both considered really red Republican type states, uh, not the crazy blue Democrat states. If you criticize Israel, you've lost freedom of speech because you have to pay for it. If you are a student in a university, they throw you out of the university. If you're a foreign student in the university, Trump deports you, sends you home. Well, this shows a tremendous power of Israel over not just the foreign policy in the Middle East, but over the domestic policy. They have canceled the First Amendment. Well, when a foreign country that's not as big as your smallest state can cancel your constitution, where does the power reside?
Well, the Guardian newspaper did a crucifixion of me via George Monbiot. That was quite a while ago now. Before I spoke to you, since I haven't spoken to you since, and they was calling me a conspiracy fictionist. No apology yet, by the way, for saying that Israel controls Washington, right? The government, American government, and then
Well,
it
what do you
came
expect him to say? I mean, who do you think owns that journalist? Israel. They own
exactly.
all of them. They own them all. They're all owned. There's not a free journalist anywhere in the United States or Britain or a free newspaper. They're owned. The BBC is owned,
Mm.
not by the British.
And there's videos of Netanyahu actually bragging that he controls Congress in Washington. So, you know, so
And
it's
not
a
just him. Every Israeli politician has said, we don't have to worry about the Americans. We control them. Everyone has said it over and over. But if you say it, it's anti-Semitic.
that's right. Yeah, Well, I've been called that many times. The BBC did a hit job on me, the Times newspaper, anti-Semitic Jason Liosatos. I'm anti-Semitic. I'm anti
Look,
anyone.
they do a job on anybody who doesn't uphold the narrative.
Yeah,
If you're going to go against the narrative, you have to expect a job to be done on you.
yeah, yep,
If you want to be successful and be part of them, you have to follow the narrative. You can't
yep,
be poking holes in it. I mean, the
yep,
narrative's all lies.
mm, yep, yep.
You see, and the journalists can't do anything about it. If they go against the narrative, they're fired.
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it? And now if the digital slavery comes in, which is fast coming towards us, then they'll just cut your bank account off. That's it. You'll be completely rendered helpless if you speak out about anything they don't want you to speak out about, you know. That's a very dangerous thing coming, you know.
Well, it just makes it easier, but they can already do it. You have to remember, was it how many hundreds of thousands of Trump supporters were falsely prosecuted as January 6th insurrectionists and sent to prison? How many? And of course, there was no insurrection.
Hmm. That's quite amazing. Quite
And
amazing.
so, if they can just round up huge numbers of people who were at a rally exercising their right to free speech and protest, and if that now is the equivalent of insurrection, they can put you in prison for it. Uh, they don't need the digital. They can already do it.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
So,
True, Paul.
if you look at what's happening everywhere in the West, is all of the rights that people have traditionally had have been violated. They don't really have them anymore. Look how easy it is for somebody in Britain to get arrested for holding up a sign, just holding a sign, and they get arrested. Look how difficult it is for women in Britain and Norway and Sweden to report a rape by an immigrant invader. They're in danger of that being said a hate crime. You're making a hate crime against black people because you're a white racist.
Mm. Mm.
You can't if you can't even report a crime against yourself.
Brilliant.
The woman can't go in and say, "Well, I just got raped by a bunch of Somalis or Ethiopians or somebody," and they say, "Shut up, bitch! We'll arrest you for hate crime."
Yes, true. Yeah. It's getting
Uh,
bad.
it's that's the way it is.
Yeah.
We had the short-term Prime Minister, Liz Truss, is that what her name was?
Yeah. Liz
And
Truss.
uh, and she said, they covered this up for 30 years. There were several hundred thousand British female children repeatedly gang raped, and the government itself covered it up for 30 years. Well, who does the government represent?
Well, Keir Starmer covered up Jimmy Savile raping children, didn't he? The police were looking into that when he was head of the IPC or whatever it was called. I can't remember. So, yeah, they're rogues. They're rogues and criminal gangs of the most unscrupulous people in the country, and they pretend they're not. And they just pretend they're really good people looking after the people, which is rubbish. They don't care, Paul. You know, they don't care. They don't care. But I don't know, Paul. I've kept you long enough. I know you're a very busy man. I know your time's precious, and I always know it's very nice to have you on the show. But one thing I will ask you before you leave: can you give anyone any hope? But is there any solutions? I mean, what can people do? I mean, people feel helpless in the face of all this. They just keep on voting for different people and hoping there's going to be change. And I always say we're trying to start new communities here. I've told you before. It almost seems ridiculous of just something where you can grow food, do this, do that. There are people coming together, Paul. I got to tell you, a lot of people starting to create new systems. Will it be fast enough?
They
I
better
don't
arm themselves.
arm themselves. Yeah,
Better arm themselves. Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah,
if they're going to expose themselves by forming different communities,
Mm.
that targets them. And so they better be armed and prepared to act because it's not going to be tolerated. They're not going to be able to peacefully do that.
Yeah. I suppose most of the solution, I suppose, which keeps me hopeful, is that people are becoming more and more aware, and I suppose if more and more people come aware and they see the system for what it is, it's
Just a
glaringly
minute.
obvious now, isn't it? That's
I'm not sure they are becoming aware.
a lot of people still aren't, you're right. Yeah.
When the Trump administration can tell the world that one of the reasons they had to uh, interfere in Venezuela was because the Houthis were there producing drones to attack Florida. I mean, anybody that, and people believe it. They believe it. Uh, well, then how is that being aware?
Mm.
Look,
Well,
here's the hope. The hope is that uh, the Russians aren't going to tolerate Putin's um divorce from reality any longer. So he's going to have to start putting a foot down. When he does that, it's going to shake the world because that's not what Europe and Washington expect. They're accustomed to Putin accepting every provocation they deliver. They've written him off. But if the Russian foot comes down, then, oh, that's going to shake them. The whole confidence starts falling apart, that they can exercise hegemony. Um, if the Chinese finally wake up and put a foot down again, things are going to shake. If the leaders of Russia, China, and Iran had any wits, and I've not seen it, if they have it, they would form a mutual security agreement. If Russia, China, Iran announce tomorrow that they have formed their own NATO, an attack on one is attack on all, that would be the end of all these provocations. There's absolutely no combination of force in the world can defeat Russia, China, and Iran. So the whole thing was stopped. If it got tested, then that security agreement would have to exercise enormous force and show the world what is going to happen to you. That would be the end of all this. Be the end of Trump's blustering. It'd be the end of Netanyahu's scheming. They wouldn't have any way to do that. So Israel's going to get America to attack Iran when Iran is in a mutual security agreement with Russia and China? No, no. There goes every Western capital, every city in the United States. They're gone, just like that. So, yeah, but when you have even the threatened leaders of the threatened countries divorced from reality, they don't even know what's going on. It's my criticism of Putin has been that although he's trying to avoid war by ignoring provocations, what he's really doing is paving the road to war with gold bricks, because by refusing to acknowledge provocations, he encourages more and they worsen. We reached the point where it was either the United States or the British who fired the attack on Putin's residence. We know for a fact that the Iranians don't have the technology, the GPS systems, all of that. It has to be done by the British or the Americans. So we tried to assassinate Putin and he pretended it didn't happen. So what will we try next?
You'd think he
This
would.
is
You'd
this
think
is
he.
the progression. This is
You'd
just
think
think back.
you'd think he'd retaliate by immediately taking out Starmer, Trump, which he could easily do. Mm. Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, yeah.
Or just end the war.
Mm,
Now, the recent attacks have gone beyond what he has ever permitted the military to do in the past.
mm.
Now, the question is, has he learned a lesson? Is he now going to have another such attack? I think two more attacks like that, and that's the end of the war.
Mm.
It could be over by the end of the week. Or is he just going to treat it, oh, it's just retaliation for them trying to kill me? As long as it's retaliation, it's not part of defeating Ukraine. I
Well, I go on. Yeah.
don't know. I don't know if it's a change in his approach to the war or it's just retaliation and he's raised the level of retaliation a little bit. But you wanted to know if there was hope, but there can't be hope when the people under attack are unrealistic about it and pretend that it doesn't happen or they say, well, if we do anything, it'll just lead, like you said earlier in this show, that Putin didn't want to do anything because it would lead to a big blow up. Well, no, it would stop the blow up. What leads to the blow up is not doing anything because the provocations get worse and worse, and sooner or later they can't be ignored. Where, where are the next missiles going to hit? The Kremlin? What's going to be the next Russian ships seized by the Americans? Is the American fleet going to sail into the Black Sea and impound the Russian fleet in Sevastopol? Are they? What would stop them? If Russia accepts that they can steal its ships on high seas, why can't they steal it in the Russian port? It's these failures on the part of the Chinese, the Russians, and the Iranians to ever use the initiative that leaves all the power in Netanyahu and Trump's hands. As long as they're in denial and only occasionally respond, but usually only with meaningless words. In other words, if the dog's bark has no bite, nobody pays any attention to the dog. And that's the trouble with Putin and the Chinese leader and the Iranian leadership. They complain, they complain, they complain. Who cares? Nobody cares what they say. It means nothing to Washington what the Russians or the Chinese say or the Iranians. Why? Because they never do anything. And so the provocations worsened and worsened. And eventually, the only possible choice will be for the Russians to surrender, the Chinese to surrender, the Iranians to surrender, or go to a real war. So all of that needed to have been stopped long ago. Letting a conflict with Ukraine go on for 4 years,
So many deaths.
well, not just so many deaths. It creates an environment where the provocations grow and grow and grow, and then you only Russian replies, take them out. So it's not being hard that causes the war. It's being soft.
Mm. Well, it's back to the Taekwondo analogy I gave earlier, Paul. I mean, if I hadn't stood up to that guy and choked him, what would he have done next? He just keep beating me up? Would he just he come and take my house and my car? So at some point you've got to act. That's it. You've got to act. Yep.
They always they always taught us that when you're confronted with a bully, you hit him. You fight even if you know you're going to lose, because otherwise the bullying will never stop. So that's just the way we were raised. If somebody's bullying you, you just haul off and hit him as hard as you can, and he won't expect it, and it will shake his confidence, and he'll leave you alone.
And it's like, but I'll just say this before we go, Paul. And I wrote it down earlier. I forgot to say it. It's obvious. It's like a bully in the schoolyard, isn't it? If they keep coming down, and if you're scared of them, they'll say, "Right, I want your sweets, I want your pocket money every month, or I'll beat you up." So eventually, you've got to stand up to them. So Paul, listen, it's amazing to speak to you again. I got to say, and thanks for your wisdom and your courage to speak the truth, like so many other people really won't. And I respect you greatly for that. And it's been great to have you a guest again on my show, and for your time. And it's great to see you again.
Okay, well, I just hope I don't get you in trouble with that totalitarian government you live under. The notion that Britain is a free country is absurd. There's no more any freedom in Britain. Your unwritten constitution's dead. You're in the hands of immigrant invaders. You're disappearing as a nation.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And if you complain about it, they'll arrest you. So
yeah.
having me on may not be a good idea. I really don't think it's safe enough for people in England or Britain to uh, have guests, even foreign ones, who don't accept the narrative, because it implies that you don't accept the narrative. And so
Well, Paul, I can just say
you're a
this.
bad guy. They'll get you. They're going to
Well,
get you.
well, perhaps they'll put me out of my misery. Yeah. Paul, look, I'd rather die on the hill of truth anytime, like I know you would. Thanks very much. PaulCraigRoberts.org. Go and support Paul. Paul, thanks for everything. And thanks for being you, and I really appreciate it. Good to see you.
Okay, Jason. I appreciate you. Good
Take care,
luck.
Paul. Thanks so much. Thanks so much. There he goes, Paul Craig Roberts. What a fantastic man. Yeah. Um, I really dearly like that man very much. He's been on my show many, many times over the years, and supported my show and spoken about all sorts of things. And Paul, he just tells the truth. That's it. And the truth can be quite jarring and shocking. And that's the thing. We must keep telling the truth. We must keep speaking the truth. I've said regularly, I can't do these shows anymore. I don't want to talk about this stuff anymore. I want to talk about love and light, and which I'm going to talk much more. We're doing a conference now soon about finding your strength and power and happiness and joy. Yeah. But the only problem with just talking about that is you're not talking about what actually usurps that, which is living in a global casino mental asylum that's become normal. Like I said with Paul just now, if someone came from an alien planet of symbiosis and love and caring and sharing, and they said, "Look, we've observed you, and it can't be true, but I've got to ask you, is it some kind of trick? It seems like your system's based on short-term greed, power, profit, debt, and slavery to keep people in debt." I mean, most people I know are scurrying around trying to make money, scurrying around. And I will talk about it in the conferences. Fear and anxiety is paralytic to consciousness and development in a human being. It actually chokes you off. So basically you stay a caterpillar choked in your cocoon of debt and slavery and worry and fear. And you don't break out and become a butterfly. I've talked about it many times on the show. So it seems to me that I can't really stop talking about this stuff. And come and get me. I'll just speak about the truth. That's what I'll do. I'll speak about the truth. You have to. You have to talk about it. And like Paul said, he's right. Most people just don't want to hear about it. Or he alluded to that. Most people don't want to hear about it. Why? Because it's a bitter pill to swallow that you've actually been tricked all your life and you thought you were free, but you're in a prison, really. This world is slavery. It's a prison. It's it sounds really negative to talk about it, but it's not negative because once you see it and realize it, it's very liberating because it makes you realize why you didn't feel quite right all these years. I always knew something was wrong. I knew it. I always felt uncomfortable. I hate to go to work every day and just making enough money to pay the bills. My wife said once, well, they wouldn't pay you too much or you wouldn't come back next week or the month after. Right? The system's very cleverly designed. And my own uncle said it buys your life. It buys your life. It's a thief and a robber. People could say, how could it be any different, Jason? Come on. It could be a lot different, my dear friends. Yeah. It's just that it's become so normal. Money, bills, debt, fear, control. It's become so normal that we can't see anything other than this. And that's frightening. That's scary. And it is becoming Orwellian. I spoke to Leo Zagami last night at the show Beyond My Show, jasonliosatos.com. Leo Zagami talked about it. It's Orwellian. It's going to be worse than Orwellian. 1984, George Orwell. It's going to be worse. The thought police. You won't be able to say anything without being shut down. Soon. Definitely. Yeah. So, I could go on and on about it. I tell you who I spoke to today was this lovely gentleman. Coins and Bullion of Hollerton. There's his number there. And uh, I know quite a few people who are getting goals off him now. And Andre, and also he will give you a discount if you mention my name. And people are delighted with what he's doing. He's a very nice guy, and he'll advise you very well. And he was in my gallery today, and we were speaking about a lot of people are getting more gold now and silver as they see the digital cashless society coming shooting in. But look, I'm not here to say negative stuff. It's liberating to see your prison because I didn't feel quite right all these years. Yeah. Now what are we going to do about it? That's the problem. Yeah. It's you could hardly put a caravan on a field and live outside the system. I used to live on a narrowboat. That was about the closest I ever came to being free on this planet. But even then, you've got to buy fuel, you've got to buy electricity, you've got to pay your license, you've got to pay this. Well, Jason, if no one did that, well, the system would collapse. Yeah, you mean slavery would collapse, right? You got to buy water. If an alien came from another symbiotic place, another planet, and they looked at people, what, you've got to pay for water? Hang on a second. I live near Dartmoor. There's water gushing down from Dartmoor. Yeah? It's like you pay for water to drink? What? In fact, I go as far to say people shouldn't actually be able to pay for food. You shouldn't buy food. It should be free. Jason, what are you talking about? Food should be free. Well, we're born on this planet. We're born into a symbiotic, beautiful planet. Yes, it's predatory in some ways. There's a lot of things fighting for survival, but supposed intelligent beings like us. So we're born on the planet. Some unscrupulous person says, "Oh no, you can't have the mother's milk. Water, food, shelter, clothing. You can't have that free. What are you talking about? Good God!" No, we'll rip you off your mother's teat. Planet Earth will be in the middle there as the middleman, and you'll now buy the water off us and the food and the clothes and the shelter. So shut up and get to work, and we'll give you a little bit of money on the plantation, and then you'll come back next week and you'll buy the food off us again. Yeah. It's almost tragicomical. It's bloody hilarious. It really, really is. It's a monopoly game. That's what it is. A shameless, immoral monopoly game. But hopefully, we must live in hope. My granny used to say, better to live in hope than die in despair. When I used to mitch off school and go around there and smoke cigarettes with her. She was a great granny, never told anybody. So, I didn't want to be in school. I knew I was being controlled and put to sleep and prepared for slavery. I knew it. Yeah, I knew it. I could feel it in my bones. All I wanted to do was sneak out of school, run across the field to the woods. I'd get to the woods. Wow, I was free. Yeah. You got to get an education, Jason. Yeah. The word education comes from the word educo, which is, I think, the Latin word to educe, to draw from within. The system puts us to sleep. We go to school, then you come out of school, and guess what? You're fully prepared to take orders from someone, respect authority, do what you're told, be scared of your boss, or he'll fire you and you'll be homeless. Yeah. Anyway, this is the whole thing. So what can we do? Well, you can't do anything until you see it and you feel it. And we have got to remember that we are absolutely magical, magnificent creators. And mostly what you see around you, as I said with Paul earlier on, is an outcome from previous decisions made, a consequence and a feedback loop from previous decisions made. Your life, my life, um, and the system we live in. So what are we seeing? The same old maniacs in positions of power, you know, based on power, short-term greed and profit and power. That's it. Yeah. So what's going to happen? We'll see. People, as I said with Paul, I know biblical people who say that it's got to play out. It's biblical. It's got to play out. It's all going to go tits up, as they say. Yeah. And that's a good old saying. A god awful saying. Yeah. We'll see. But all I'm saying is that it's you that's going to change things. Yeah. Create your own systems, create your own little communities, create your own food growing cooperatives. We're going to have people speaking at the conference who do that. I've been filming people who grow their own food in polytunnels, who are creating new systems. Yeah. And it's very inspiring. And sometimes we only create new things when the shackles become so tight and we're strangled so hard. Sometimes we only struggle once we're being choked out. Okay, I'll fight for my life, you know? So the system's showing itself now for what it is. And we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's it. Like I said, go there if you want to get some gold and silver. Go there. This man's brilliant, and he beats bullion by post for prices. If give my name, Jason, he supports the show, and he beats bullion by post. Okay, and you're also very important with Andre is your privacy is assured. Okay, with bullion by post and other people, it's all on record, not with Andre. Yeah. So your privacy is very important, and you've got the gold and silver in your hands or in your whatever you're going to put it. Yeah. So that's very important. Go to my website, jasonliosatos.art.com if you want to go and see my works of art. There's quite a few originals on there, but quite a few of them have sold these last few days, and I'm just about to adjust that now. So wait a couple of hours before you go on there. And if you want to get my book, where is it? It's in this bag. I'll just go and get it. Wait a second. Hang on. Here's my book. Some great reviews on that. The Emergency Transformation of Human Beings as the Solution to the World's Problems. And I talk about all sorts of things in there about finding our strength and building ourselves up and escaping the traps that confine us and keep us suppressed and raising our consciousness and vibration and becoming better people. There was a great film I advise you all to watch before I go. It was called Defending Your Life, and the producer was Albert Brooks. And it was a wonderful film. And he left his body. He was in an accident. He left his body and went to another place where they see if you're going to come back to Earth. You know, I won't give too much away, but it's a very brilliant film. Brilliant, you know. And when he went up there, wherever, or down there, or whatever, the guy who was assessing him and helping him, look, he said, the thing is to raise yourself, you know, to become better, to become smarter, to become vibrating on a higher level. You know, don't stay, you know, in fear, and you know, raise your level of consciousness. And he said to Albert Brooks, who was the actual playing the actor of the man who died and went to wherever. He said to Albert, he said, I use 37% of my brain. He said, how much do you think you use? And Albert Brooks said, 35. He said, three. 3 to 5% of your brain. Albert Brooks said, 3%? I use 3% of my brain. I'm the dunce of the universe. He said, when you're on Earth, he said, people on Earth use about 3 to 5% of their brains. If you used any more of that, you wouldn't want to be down there. Yeah. So have a look at that film. You can see it free on YouTube. Defending Your Life with Albert Brooks. Okay, there's my book. I talk about all sorts of things like that in there. Get my book on Amazon. Yes, I'm on Amazon, and our minds are the biggest threat to our survival. Yeah, we are the transducers of consciousness. So there's a lot of very positive things in there, about dealing with stress and happiness and building yourself up. Okay, that's it from me, I think. I think that's it. Yes, that's it. So keep a checkout for our conference, which will be on my website, jasonliosatos.com, which is where this talk with Paul Craig Roberts, paulcraigroberts.org, will be. And last night we had Leo Zagami on the show, so that will be going up there tonight as well. And be strong, be happy. Don't let the system get you down, and just try and find that peace within yourself because that's the real treasure. Finding that peace within yourself. Don't try not to be agitated, anxious, and stressed because that's terrible. It depletes you. Yeah? So just keep coming back towards yourself all the time. Stay fit, stay healthy, and keep yourself in the best shape you possibly can. And because these are fantastic spacesuits, yeah. Don't abuse them. They're very special things. Your spacesuit on planet Earth, yeah. It's a very, very interesting place to be at the moment. And I wish you love and all the best here. And be kind to yourself, be kind to others, love each other, love yourself. And I'll see you next time. I'm signing out. Yeah. Take care. Lots of love. Bye bye.